Hey everyone, this is Dean with DCA Crypto. I'm going to cover with you in this video why I'm bullish for a bull run coming later this year. So I'd appreciate if you subscribe to my channel, smash that like button, and let's jump into it. Alright, so I'm going to cover in this video why I think we are going to get a massive bull run eventually later this year into 2025. We don't know the exact time frame of it, and obviously this is not guaranteed, so this is not financial advice, guys, but in my personal opinion, I think we're going to get a massive bull run, and I'm going to share with you in this video why I still think that, why I'm still adding crypto to my portfolio, why I have a current order in for Bitcoin when I think it's going to drop down to probably between the 52 to 54,000 range over the next week or so here. So let's jump into it. Alright, so you can see the kind of the trend here with Bitcoin. And I'm not an expert at charts, so just ignore my lines, but we are on a downward trend. I think we're going to continue to come down on this downward trend for a little bit here before we take off into this bull run. Now, obviously, I could be wrong. I don't have a crystal ball. It's possible we come crashing down here. But if you see this candle here, this is a very strong wick to the top before we had this big spike here. That means there was a lot of selling pressure here, but then we had a lot of buying pressure and broke through that. There's a lot of times where you can look at the charts and see wicks like this previously, where kind of like this one here, where we wicked down and we stopped. We hit the top of these wicks here with this, and it pushed it back up. If we were to keep on this trend down here and break through this level here of like 52,900 in this range, if we were to break down below this, I don't think we would get below this 49,000 level here. It's like 48,900. I think this would be where we stop and we get too much pushback and we start kicking off into the bull run. Now, this is just my personal opinion. I could be wrong on this, but I'm expecting us to keep on this downward trend for a little while and keep kind of going sideways in between this range here before we hopefully take off into a bull run. I'm going to share with you now why I think we're going to get a bull run here, why I think it's inevitable. I don't think this was the bull run, and the reasons I think we pumped like this is simply because of the Bitcoin ETFs. I think are the only reason why we pumped up this much, or we never would have gotten near this high. I think that's the only reason why we did, and that's why altcoins haven't really taken off and done crazy numbers yet. I don't think this was the bull run. I think this was just bullish expectations of the Bitcoin ETF and some big, whales and stuff, and even some retail, but mostly institutional buying that ended up pushing us up this high. And then the anticipation of the ETFs is what pushed us up. But now we're getting a little bit of correction. I don't think we've had the bull run yet because retail has been proven to not be in the market yet. We're still in the beginning of the liquidity cycle where we're going to have more liquidity pushing into the market. The Fed has been increasing interest rates this entire time, or holding steady, and not lowering interest rates at all, which is bad for crypto, and we still pushed up to a new all-time high throughout that movement of the Fed holding steady on their interest rates and not lowering them. So I'm going to cover that in this video as well, so let's jump into that. This is the that was the weekly chart here. So this is a weekly chart. This is the daily chart. So as you can see more clearly here, we're just kind of ranging in between those same boundaries here. And I think eventually we'll touch down, possibly like I said in this range here around 52,000 before we take off. But I do have a buy order in currently with Bitcoin at 54,000. So I'm hoping we'll drop down there and wick down to that 54,000 mark, and hopefully it'll hit my buy order before we come up again. I don't know how long we're going to keep going on this trend, so I don't want to hope that we get down to that 49,000 mark before I put in a buy order. I'm trying to accumulate some little bit more Bitcoin before we take off into this bull run. So how interest rates affect the crypto and commodity markets. This is on bankrate.com. So they're saying here, two other major asset classes had varied responses in the face of higher rates. While crypto prices plummeted along with other risky assets, many commodities spiked higher in 2021 or 2022, including oil. but many of those moves proved short-lived with the rise of the Fed fund rates slowly and then pausing in 2023. Both oil and crypto seem to have found some support. Now with lower rates in the offing, both have found an extra tailwind. So they're talking about in this article here, basically, if you read through it here, they're saying that, with interest rates and inflation uncertainty, it can create all kinds of volatility in the markets. But typically, once they start lowering interest rates, higher risk assets like crypto tend to do well when they lower interest rates. So we haven't seen them lower the interest rates yet. Hopefully they do. And if they do in September, after that is when I think we're going to start taking off into a bull run. But we'll have to see how this plays out here. There's other things I want to cover in this video too that are extremely bullish and why I think we're going to have a massive bull run, not just because of the Fed interest rates, but they're saying here if the Fed lowers interest rates, this is on Forbes, it'll play into this existing demand-supply dynamic. The Fed will also likely set an example for central banks around the world. The debt buying and lower interest rates targeting from central banks will be designed to get people to buy into leverage and debt. Risk on assets like equities will possibly flourish, though the AI hype driving them may find its finite end at some point given the amount of revenue generated versus the amount invested in infrastructure. Still, they're saying the market might be irrational longer than you can stay liquid, of course. Bitcoin may be likely to rise as well, given its correlated history with equities. It may also offer people an easy way to switch in and out of equities now that ETFs are mainstream, so perhaps the correlation with equities and booming tech stocks might evolve even more strongly. So this is what I think is going to happen. This is just my thoughts, guys. I'm not saying this is going to happen. Just my thought process here. We didn't have Bitcoin ETFs, spot ETFs before, where people could easily exchange their stocks in the stock market and swap it for Bitcoin. We now have that. It's really easy for them to do that. They don't have to cash out of the stock market and put it in their check banking accounts and then transfer it to crypto and all that to purchase Bitcoin. They can now sell a stock the next day, go turn around and buy Bitcoin with it through the ETF. That was not an option before. So I think that is going to take place in this bull run here, and you're going to see higher prices for Bitcoin and possibly Ethereum as well. Depending on how ETH does. I don't know. I think Solana is more of a runner this bull run, even though Solana has its issues. But I think Bitcoin is going to do really well this bull run compared to Ethereum. I don't think ETH, just my opinion, is going to do as well as some people predicted, because it really hasn't done much of anything since last bull run with all the upgrades they're doing and still need to be done to get sharding and stuff like that in place to get the price of ETH down for transactions to where it needs to be. And I don't know if they'll ever get to where it actually needs to be, but either way, they're here. They're saying here that they expect prices to rise between 6 and 18 months after the halving. If history repeats itself, we have lower interest rates coming, so that will hopefully help out as well. So I think that's going to kick off a bull run. What I think is going to kick off a major bull run is these next moves here. So Trump is playing around with the idea of possibly paying off our $35 trillion national debt using Bitcoin. So the government's been adding $1 trillion national debt to the deficit every 100 days, approximately. And what they're talking about here is Trump basically said that, who knows, maybe we'll pay off our $35 trillion debt and hand them a little crypto check, right? We'll hand them a little Bitcoin and wipe away our $35 trillion. So, he's really getting, idea that Bitcoin could solve a lot of the problems here. And, it sounds like if he were to get elected that he's really going to go all in on Bitcoin with the U.S. government's purchasing power. Hopefully that is the case. We also see some other people in the government talking about this as well. But in the previous bull runs, you never had any presidential candidates or senators or anyone in the government talking about Bitcoin in a positive light. It was always negative. Now a lot of them are being extremely bullish with crypto and Bitcoin, extremely bullish with Bitcoin especially. But you never had that before in the history of crypto, and we still had pretty good bull runs in the past. Another example of this is Cynthia Lummis. She's announced plans and introduced legislation directing the government to accumulate 1 million Bitcoin, which is 1/21th of the supply, which would be worth over $68 billion at its current price. So, she's talking about, 1 million Bitcoin. That's almost, if you count the amount of Bitcoin that hasn't been produced yet and the amount of Bitcoin that's probably lost permanently out of the supply, you're talking about 5% of the Bitcoin supply here, basically, that the U.S. government were to purchase if this were to get passed. So over a 5-year period to buy up, basically 5% of the Bitcoin supply, just absolutely massive if that were to happen. I think that's around 5 times of what MicroStrategy has accumulated, because I think they've accumulated about 1% of the supply so far. So, this is extremely bullish. You never ever seen proposals like this coming from the U.S. government. Whether this will pass or not, we don't know, but at least they're talking about it and being extremely bullish on what they're talking about with Bitcoin now. RFK Jr., he stated that he would buy 4 million Bitcoin if he were to be elected U.S. president. So 4 million Bitcoin, that's like, what, almost 20% of the supply of Bitcoin, which is absolutely insane if they were to do that. And he's saying that basically he would put that in the U.S. reserves, and he outlined an aggressive plan to integrate Bitcoin into the national economy as well. So, if he, and I don't think he's going to get elected, I don't think he's got the numbers to do so. I think, if you look at the betting, the betting where people are betting on the presidential election, they're saying he's got less than a 1% chance of getting elected just because of the uphill battle with being a third party. Even though he's got a lot of positive things that he wants to do, and he does have a pretty good following, the bettors are saying he's got less than a 1% chance of winning the election. So it's very unlikely that he's going to win, because those are have been historically very accurate on basically predicting who's going to be the president. And but the fact that he's saying this is going to make other people like Trump and even the Democrats start thinking about, hey, maybe we really need to start looking at Bitcoin here as a strategic reserve. And you never know, Trump has even asked him to join and work under him. And I don't remember the department, but Trump has asked him to work under him. So maybe at some point he will work under Trump if Trump were to get elected. And maybe he can influence some of this to Trump and make some positive impact with Bitcoin if he were to work under him and if Trump were to get elected. So we'll have to see that. But these are some of the main reasons why I'm extremely bullish on crypto. Number one, you've got the liquidity cycle where there should be more liquidity coming into the market. You've got the interest rates. There should be lowering aggressively here from now for the next couple of years. So that should push risk assets up. You're going to get more Americans borrowing money and having more debt. You're going to have more businesses borrowing money, more debt. You're going to probably see the housing market boom once they start lowering interest rates, even though housing prices have increased. Really doesn't matter if housing prices have increased. It really doesn't matter that the price of Bitcoin is up over all-time high or close to all-time high. It doesn't matter that everything is more expensive. The reason why those things are higher in price, housing's higher in price, and all the products you're buying at the store, insurance rates are higher, everything is higher, vehicle prices are higher, because they've flushed so much more money into the market that it has diluted the value and the purchasing power of everything. So that's why everything costs more now. So even though Bitcoin is over $60,000 right now as of this recording, it may be lower by the time this video comes out, but even though these prices are higher, we've had so much more money and liquidity come into the so much more supply of the money come into the market since the last bull run, that these prices that we're at now, and even if you look at the stock market versus the amount of money that's come into the supply, the stock market is literally just keeping up with it, if not under the amount of money supply that's come into the market. So even though these prices are rising, it's not that we're in a bubble. It's the fact that things just simply cost more because the value has been diluted from how much money has come into the market. So I've been watching some, people out there that are really smart about stuff like this, smarter than me, and have been watching this stuff and realizing that the reason why these prices are going to continue to rise is because we're continually printing money, and as long as we continually print money, the prices of all of these things are going to continue to go up because there's more money coming in, which pushes those prices up. But it's money that's being printed and distributed to the into the economy and distributed out into the liquidity out there in the market. So I don't think we're in any kind of bubble. I think we have a long ways to go. I think the bull market, personally, just my opinion, is just getting started. I think we have a bit of a painful correction coming here in the short term before we get off into that bull run still. I could be wrong on that. Maybe we just come down a little bit further and then we take off into the bull run. But I'm expecting personally some real pain in the market where people are ready to start selling their portfolios. They're quitting on crypto, saying it's over, it's done. People really drastically dropping out of the market. One last major flush out before we take off into a bull run. That's my personal opinion. I could be wrong on that. Maybe we just come down a little bit more and then we take off from here. But we'll have to see. We're getting close. It's coming to that point where if you look at the historical chart from Bitcoin, typically around October is when we start taking off into the bull run historically. In 2019, 2020, in 2020 after the halving, it was October when we started taking off into the bull run. We took off into the bull run until around April of 2021. Then we had a big correction into May, June, July. Then we started picking up and going sideways. And then in October, we took off again into October of 2021. In 2023, we had a bullish move, and as soon as we hit October, we took off into a mini bull run in October 2023. And I think similar will happen this year. Hopefully in October, towards the end of October, we start taking off into a bull run. But it could drag out until December before we take off into a bull run. Just depends on what happens here. But it really depends on when they start lowering interest rates and stuff like that. And I don't have a crystal ball, guys. None of this is guaranteed. It's just my personal opinion out there and what I'm sharing with you, my ideas and what I think is going to happen. I wouldn't go trading based off of what I'm saying on this video. This is not financial advice by any means. It's just kind of my outlook as to what's going to happen here. I could be completely wrong on this. I'm not an expert by any means. I'm just going by my gut feeling here and what I think could happen based off of what's happened in the past. But I could be entirely wrong on that. So we'll just kind of hang in here and hang out and see what happens here at the markets. I do have a buy order in for 54,000 for Bitcoin. We'll see if it hits that or not. It may not even get close to that, but I think it will, just based off from where we're at right now in the market and on a downward trend. But we'll see what happens here. But that's pretty much what I got for this video, guys. I really appreciate all of you. Make sure you hit the like button for the YouTube algorithm, and we'll see you on the next video.
Tell me what you want, what you need. Tell me, tell me, tell me. Tell me what you want, what you need. Tell me, tell me, tell me.